Hey everybody, just want to do a quick video on drainage at the farm, drainage on a boarding facility, drainage at a horse facility, any of these things that sort of apply to you. We need to talk about drainage. Here on the west coast of Canada, we've been getting too much rain. More than the last 70 years or something like that we've gotten so much rain in one small period of time. We're just coming up on May now, it's the end of April, and we've been just tackling piles of water that just comes into our land. We're lucky we kind of got a bit of a slope here, but the arena's down at the bottom, so it's something we needed to think about when we built the place. If you're dealing with drainage issues that maybe you've bought a farm, you've bought some land and it's got, places that puddle, places that don't drain properly, drainage is the only way to deal with it. We were talking this weekend about others that have tried to pile stuff on top of it. Whether you try to pile dirt or rocks or sand or bark mulch or hog fuel, you can cover up the problem, but eventually you're just going to have to come back to it. It's near impossible to solve a drainage problem, an over water or a flooding problem, just by trying to put stuff on top of it, unless you also do some form of drainage. So, talking about drainage today, and the reason we need to talk about drainage is because we need to make sure that the environment that we work in, the environment that we play in, the environment that the horses live in, all these things stay reasonably dry. Definitely beneficial for the horse. Their hooves and their legs can stay a little bit drier. You'll worry a little bit less about things like thrush and mud fever. And of course, it's just more comfortable when you're going to clean up all the manure and hay and stuff that gets left over from actually having horses. Then you have less trouble. So providing that drainage really helps out. So in our property here, just to give an example, we've got drainage that heads down both sides of the arena. We've got drainage that runs in front of the arena from one side to the other, and that all drains out to the back corner where there was already a natural drain process happening because there was a ditch on one side of the property that we took advantage of, and that drainage just heads off down south, as it would as the land is sloped. Now, the part where we had to be very careful how we considered our drainage and gone back and forth on is more where the paddocks are, as it was just more of just bare land. So one of the things that we considered is a sort of a grid of drainage pipes that come across and they meet up in a particular place. Now, that's great. I mean, that's not a difficult topic or a difficult concept to sort of understand, so I don't think I need to explain it. But the one thing when you have these drainage things that you have to deal with is making it look kind of good. A lot of the time drainage looks like crap. In fact, this is probably such a boring topic and such an uninteresting topic because it's usually quite ugly. So you always got to try to turn your drainage into something that looks a little bit pretty, or it maybe doesn't look like drainage, but it is. You see it all the time in parks. You go to the parks and they're always working hard to make sure that the places that need to drain out look kind of nice. They put a lot of rocks around, they put some logs around, and then it just looks good. So the topic of drainage, while it's important for functional purposes, for other purposes of just being around it and looking at it and inviting friends and family and visitors over to be around it, it's important that it looks kind of nice. So one of the things that we considered when we did our grid over our paddock area is making sure that the water doesn't continue from one paddock to another, because they're all a little bit sloped, which is really good because it helps drain the paddock itself. But the water doesn't continue from one paddock to the next and instead just gets cut off and brought down. And that goes into a nice little stream, and that goes down into the pond, and from the pond it heads off down the property, down the side of the arena really low, and then out the back where the other side comes out. So I don't know if that's helpful. I know a lot of people are really struggling with how much mud they have on their property, in their paddocks, in the fields, and a lot of the times you really can't help it that much. But if anything is actually going to help it in the short and long term, it is absolutely putting in perforated pipe with piles of drainage rock that will hold the other earth back, the dirt back, while allowing the water to get through. And with that, you're also going to want to consider to use landscape fabric or filter cloth. And essentially that is another type of material that you put on the land. And while it doesn't let any sediment and silt through, it does let water leak through, which can then make it down into the drainage without your drainage getting clogged up and off the property, hopefully, somewhere where it can drain freely, hopefully without flooding some other location. But when you've got enough water coming down, you can't really be helped. So I really hope that helps. I don't think that this video is really detailed, but it might just give you some ideas when you think about how to get your property so it's not soaking wet. Covering it up with hog fuel or dirt or gravel is great in the short term. It will work because you'll get the land up higher. But when it comes to long term, because that stuff will settle in time, when it comes to long term, you end up just kind of thinking, how can I get this water to leave the property or leave the area, so that you don't have to keep on adding material. So it might be a short-term larger expense to be a long-term smaller expense. Anyways, hopefully the boys in the back can provide a little bit of entertainment for this very boring but important topic. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again soon.